And hello, Richmond Bills Mafia. So we are Step Brother Sports, and we are live back at Richbrau Brewing, Richmond, Virginia's Buffalo Bills Backers Bar. Yes, and we are also happy to have my co-host here back with me live in the flesh once again. Hello, Shawnee V.
What's up, everybody? Happy to be here. Big weekend ahead. Let's get it.
Yes. As always, you can listen to us anywhere where you find your podcast. Tune in live to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, all those other great engagement functions. But also, we would really appreciate it if you guys would give a big shout out here to the folks here at Richbrau. Give a big round of applause to them. Yeah. For having us once again for our third live show. So thanks to those folks in the surrounding area from Richmond always supporting us. To come cheer on the Bills here at Richbrau Brewing for some watch parties when you can. Get some drinks, enjoy the food, get some of the good vibes, and a lot of the other fantastic events they do throughout, like regularly. Check out their social calendar. They have awesome stuff going on all the time. So we've got a huge matchup this week going on for the Buffalo Bills. They are heading to Duval to take on Trevor Lawrence and his giant nose. Yeah. So it will be a battle up and down the lineup as the Jaguars are one of the hottest teams in the league, coming off a 9-win win streak to close out their regular season. But what better way to match that up this weekend for us with a returning guest to our show. So he is a former Buffalo Bill who has played alongside many Buffalo Bills legends in the trenches all along the offensive line. He's got several playoff games on his resume, knows what it takes for a team to make a deep playoff run. He's also part of the fantastic Bill Squad podcast with Joe Marino of the Locked On Bills group, along with Jeremy White and Joe Marino. Like we said before, the king himself, but not to mention he has his own podcast network on the Overreaction Network alongside fellow host Joe Miller and his teammate, Buffalo Bills teammate, John Fina. So please welcome to the show, Tulsa, Oklahoma's finest and the Big O himself, Jerry Ostroski.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Jerry, hope all is well since we last had you on. How are things out in the Sooner State for you? Any good trouble up this past holiday season?
Nah, man, everything's been pretty chill. I mean, obviously just busy doing all the different podcasting stuff I do, and then also picked up a daily radio gig. I do 2 hours of sports radio a day, 10 to 12 on the local 97.1 FM Sports Animal here in Tulsa. So things have been going well. Just, football season unbelievably is coming to an end really soon. Hopefully for us, it lasts 4 more weeks. But, yeah, man, it's just been – the season's going really fast.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. I feel like we were just talking about the week 1 win over the Ravens, felt like yesterday, but here we are, already January, here for first week of the playoffs, wild card matchup against the Jaguars. So Shawnee V, kick it off for us.
Yeah. So Jerry, there's a lot of talking head shows, social media accounts, and hot take artists out there that are saying Josh Allen really has no excuses this time around. All the big 3 quarterbacks besides him are out of the tournament, didn't even make it in. So there's really no reason to not win the Super Bowl because there's no Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow to worry about. We are of the mindset that this very well could be a game that the Bills, honestly, they're playing a tough team. They could lose this game. And the other aforementioned QBs should be criticized for not even making it at all, like I said. So what are your thoughts on this, the really overdone at this point narrative? Or do you think there's some added pressure on Josh and the team to go all the way this year? Are there any jobs on the line? There's been some talk that if the Bills go one and done, it might be the exit for multiple people in the coaching staff or front office. So what are you thinking?
Well, let's start with question number 1 as far as Josh Allen goes. People come up with narratives because that's what pays the bills, right? And if you're outside this organization, you haven't followed this organization, I don't think you understand and realize just what sort of coaching job McDermott has done and what kind of performance this Bills team has put together with the roster situation that it's in. This is a very deficient roster. It wasn't completely full to begin with when the season started. Then you add all the injuries and you have all these guys you brought in with plans to utilize them. I think we saw one game, definitely that Kansas City game, for most of it, where we saw kind of the inception of Michael Hoyt and a lot of guys that were, we expected to be on the field, and they're not on the field, coming into the wild card weekend. So as far as that goes, and to get this team where they are with the record they have, exceptional job, not only from Sean McDermott, but also Josh Allen and the likes. I mean, this is a situation, and I always say this, and I don't think people You hear this from time to time. I know Mina Kimes preaches this all the time. Wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. Okay. Wins and losses are a team stat. Football, even though college football is in complete upheaval and it's an absolute zoo, college football is still the greatest team sport in the world, and it always will be. Not many sports have this many pieces working intricately within one play to have success. And so to put all this on Josh Allen because Joe Burrow's not in there, because Mahomes isn't in there, it's silly, it's naive, and honestly, it kind of leans towards negligence as far as doing your homework and putting out content and putting out information that's pertinent to situations. No, this doesn't define his legacy. I've seen that headline quite a bit. It doesn't define his career. I mean, Josh Allen is going out every week and performing in, let's be honest, in an offense that he's probably really not wanting to perform in. I mean, Josh Allen wants to throw for 4,000 yards. He wants to rip it downfield. He doesn't want to throw, controlled passes to 5-6 yards every other play. I mean, he doesn't want to stay behind an offensive line that the number one thing they do is run the football. Well, running the football is great, but you understand what I'm getting at. So, no, I don't see this as defining his career. While I think this is an incredibly tough matchup, I also think it's a matchup that the Bills have a really good chance of winning. And obviously, Shawnee V, I know you mess with the numbers every now and then. They're rolling in. They're rolling into Jacksonville as 1.5-point favorites. Now, I know the money line's kind of even, but still, most of the time, teams that are at home get a 3-point advantage in these types of games if it's a pick 'em because they're playing at home. And hell, you would think the Jacksonville Jaguars would get a 3-point advantage just because the kicker can make it from 70 in. But the Bills are a 1.5-point favorite. That is a big deal. And I think it just shows the not only respect out of Vegas and the money and the matchmakers, but just the respect across the board that this football team has, and not just the football team, but ultimately what Josh Allen has. So say all that stuff you want. It falls on deaf ears with me. I don't listen to it because, like I said, if you're fans like we are, you follow the team like we do, you understand the real. And the real is this is a Josh Allen-led football team that's got a lot of holes in it, but they still are at this level that they are right now.
Awesome. Could not agree more. I think that one take that I saw from, I think, Stephen A's show, First Take, where he had like the most pressure. He had like the countdown of quarterbacks, and Allen was at number one. I'm just like, you already said and alluded to it earlier, like this is easily like his most depleted roster of talent that he's ever had. And I think the fact that like everybody's just continuing to pressure him just makes it more of just like a ridiculous take on there for everybody just wanting to be like, oh, he needs to win now or he'll never win. I'm like, well, he probably has a very good chance to win next year because he is who he is. But with that kind of talking about like a one matchup specific item. So Dalton Kincaid, obviously been injured frequently throughout the year. Jaguars themselves, they've had some issues and challenges stopping opposing tight ends this season. The Jags have allowed like over 1,000 receiving yards to tight ends throughout the entire regular season, ranked them very much in the lower half of the league as far as generosity to the position goes. Jags themselves are also a heavy zone coverage team. It can really influence how tight ends play against them and how they can beat the coverages that are in the way. And obviously the Bills deploy multiple tight ends with 12 and 13 personnel. Whenever Dalton Kincaid's active, though, the Bills' passing game always opens up significantly, and especially with that intermediate and long throw success. And Kincaid, whenever he's in the lineup, the Bills are 9-2 throughout this course of the season, and 2-3 when he's inactive. Their points per game always go up. When he's in the lineup, they're at 30.2 points per game. When he's inactive, they're at 23 points per game. Yards per attempt goes up. So with that also being said, you have to consider Dawson Knox in there as well, Jackson Hawes. So, Jerry, do we have a Dalton Kincaid legacy game about to happen? Kind of give us your take for how he can really challenge the Jaguars defense at this point.
Well, let me just give you a little bit more background on what you guys are talking about. And obviously, for those that don't understand the role and just how important it is that Dalton Kincaid's in the lineup, you brought up the fact that with Kincaid active, the Bills are 9-2 this season. With him out of the lineup, they're 2-3. Let's go one step further, okay? With Kincaid active, Josh Allen's passer rating is 111.77 when he's playing. If you pull out just specific Dalton Kincaid routes where he targets Dalton Kincaid, his passer rating exceeds 150. So if you really want to get down to it and you look at these things, it's quite obvious that Dalton Kincaid is a huge, huge part of this offense. And honestly, if you look at 13 personnel, the way it's run, and it's funny because, a lot of Bills fans, they hate it. They don't want to run 13. They want wide receivers outside stretching the field. I agree. You need to have at least one. But there's a very highly prolific offense in the NFL that runs a lot of 13 personnel, and that's the Los Angeles Rams. The difference is when those teams stack the box to take away the run and do those things, they've got Puka Nacua outside that can go ahead and win one-on-one routes as a receiver and hurt teams when they play a lot of man coverage. I mean, I think we talked about it on Bill's Squad. Joe Marino talked about it quite a bit, where when we played the Cleveland Browns, they played something like 78% man, which is blasphemy. I mean, it's completely disrespectful. But I can see why they did it. And, they still weren't able to stop the running game. But, yeah, I mean, Dalton Kincaid is a huge part of this 13 personnel, because the thing about Dalton is, and I want to kind of dispel another misnomer about him. And you said it earlier, you talk about that Ravens game, the first game of the season, he comes out healthy. Dalton Kincaid can block when he's asked to block. Now, they did some things as the season went on to try to keep plays off of him and, limit some attrition as far as his health goes. But he can block. But the thing about him in the lineup in 13 is it's really can be multiple sets, because Kincaid can play that slot receiver role as well as go down and play the compressed sets that the Bills do, that Joe Brady likes. And also if he had to play end line tight end. So they're just multi-set, they're multifaceted with him in the lineup. Plus, tremendous. He does a tremendous job with mismatches and things like that. So it's one of those things where it's obvious that it's important for him to be in that lineup this Sunday, because when he's in it, Josh Allen is really good.
And we hope that he can still remain healthy. Like, if the Bills indeed do advance, him being healthy is key to their unlocking their passing game. He makes it easier for anybody from Khalil Shakir down to Tyrell Shavers for being able to get open and get some additional separation on their routes run. So again,
but I mean, you can even, and I hate to interrupt you. Okay, I'm sorry about that. And we got a little bit of a delay, so it came across as I was rude. So I apologize about that, guys. But just to go a little bit further in what Kincaid means, Josh Allen threw 10 picks this year. All 10 interceptions were thrown when Dalton Kincaid was not on the field. When Dalton Kincaid was on the field and playing, or I should say when he was in games, the Bills' offense averaged 30.5 points per game versus 23 points per game without him in it. So, I mean, the list, we just keep rattling off Kincaid superlatives if we need to, but it's pretty obvious that he's important.
Absolutely.
Jerry, I do want to ask a question specific to your experience, battling in the trenches. And I know Chris wants to get into the Jags a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. This game, it's been talked about a lot. You have really two strengths going against each other. The number one rush defense against the Bills, number one rushing attack. How do you see it playing out? Is this going to be a situation where the Bills just try to, run it down their throat, see what type of success that James Cook and company can have, maybe having some QB design runs? Or do you think that the Jags D in their front may stop us and kind of get them out of the game plan? Do you see us being able to have success on the ground?
I think that we can run the ball against anybody. I don't care if they're the number one team in rushing defense or not. We've had games earlier this season where we played against, at that time, the number one rushing defense, or number two or number three. We were able to run the football. I think Houston was a game that we played a team. Houston, I think, was number one or two in the league, and we played them and we ran the football. So I'm not worried about that. By no means. We will get our runs. And, the way that James Cook and that offensive line meshes, and I talked about this the other day on Bill's Squad, I don't think people understand just how intelligent James Cook is and how much he understands the schematics and how blocks come together and how running plays come together. And that intelligence level that he has allows him to get into areas that maybe other backs, like a Saquon Barkley, who basically is just a really good athlete that plays running back, it allows him to get in spots that maybe other backs don't. So I think it's imperative for the Bills to do what they've done all season, which is they've got to have success on first and second down. They got to win the early downs. They got to get in a situation where they can run play action. They got to get in a situation where they're not relying on downfield shots, but set things up through the running game, through play action, through your short passing game, maybe your tunnel screens, your backs out of the backfield, that a guy like Brandon Cooks can get out and get verticality and make big plays downfield. I think we saw that since, Cooks came on the team when he was put on waivers from New Orleans. Pretty crazy that, last week, Brandon Cooks, after being released, only been around for a month, is that important to the Bills that they stuck him on the inactive list to make sure he was healthy for this week. So, I think he'll also become more of a weapon as Kincaid's out there also. So, yeah, Sean, honestly, I don't see anybody. They might slow it down. They're a good group. They play the run well, but you're never going to stop the Bills running game to where they become, one-dimensional. And I think it's one thing that this 13 personnel packages the Bills run and what Joe Brady believes in, why it's so important, because it makes sure the Bills have a chance to win those early downs and then getting that third and short stuff where they have many, many more options than just, drop back and Josh Allen try to make a play. So that will be a big part of this game. I think it's a big matchup, but I'm very confident in that front five. That's a good group, one of the best groups in the league. And week in and week out, they run the football.
Excellent. So I think James Cook just being able to even just get past even an 80-yard threshold, I think would go to show that the Bills' offensive linemen have had a good day, just because in the past, the Jags have been able to bottle up the run. I don't think anybody's even got past 75 yards for the most part as a back all season. That's even including Jonathan Taylor twice. So, for the Bills to be able to make that big of a dent, I think getting James Cook active is key, and being able to have that balanced attack, whether it's in the run game and in the passing game as well. But now kind of getting into the Jaguars offense again, we got a few people with some very strong opinions of Trevor Lawrence in this crowd, just because we got some we're in ACC country. Obviously, he was a Clemson guy. So, yeah. So we got somebody who says incredible hair. So might as well be Fabio with that. But overall, the Jaguars offense, they rank 6th in the NFL as far as points per game goes, averaging 27.9 points per game. Trevor Lawrence been quite efficient this year, especially middle of the field. He's almost 0.43 expected points added per attempt since week 10. His explosive plays, they're ranking 6th in the NFL since week 12. The rushing game with Travis Etienne hasn't exactly been a strength of theirs. Their EPA per carry kind of dropped pretty low, especially down the stretch, even down to like the bottom rung of like the 29th best in the league. Etienne's yards per carry fell from 4.9 to 3.6, like, again, down the stretch. Jacoby Myers, though, as Sean McDermott has really liked to point out all throughout the course of the week, how much he's really enjoyed the fact that he's been a great player. He's really enhanced the Jaguars' efficiency in their passing game. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr., De'Ami Brown, and Brenton Strange are some big targets as well. But a big flaw, the Jaguars receivers have the most drops in the NFL with 39 drops. But with all that being said, Jerry, what do you believe the keys to success will be for the Bills on defense? Are there any one-on-one matchups that really stand out to you?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for the Bills as far as how they handle this Jacksonville team is they've got to find a way to get after Trevor Lawrence. They've got to find a way to get that pass rush going. And, when you look at this pass rush of the Bills, at one time, this was a top 5 pass rush in many categories. It was something definitely top 10 in a lot of pass rushing categories. And I have it written down. I'm trying to find it for you guys. I can give you exactly what it is. But, so they're going to have to find a way to get to Lawrence. And the thing about Lawrence is, and here it is here. So weeks 1 through 9, the Bills were 5th in pressure rate with 43.2%. Pressure rate over expectation, they were 14.17, which was 3rd. And sack rate, they were 9.5%. They were 2nd. Weeks 10 through 18, the Bills' pressure rate was 32%, which put them 31st in the league. Pressure rate over expectation, minus 1.35, which was 31st in the league. And sack rate was 4.1, which was 30th in the league. So they obviously declined as the season went on. Now, whether that's injuries, game plan, attrition, things like that, weren't as good getting to the passer. And when you look at Trevor Lawrence, he's one of the higher quarterbacks in the league as far as a first read throw quarterback. So he wants to get the ball out to his first read. He's got some escapability, but he's not a Josh Allen. I think you can get him confused with coverage matchups, and I think that's one thing that you'll see McDermott do, and you saw him do it with a lot of different teams. You saw him do it with Drake May. This is a lot of the – I guess you would say, guys, this is a lot of the same type of keys and same kind of situation that the Bills deployed in New England in Foxborough against Drake May in Game 2 when we went up there and won. You take away Trevor's first read, you get to him, and then you can have an opportunity. I don't necessarily know how well he still reads things in the defensive secondary. I think you're going to see McDermott really throw a lot of different looks at him. They're going to throw coverages, disguise them, roll out of it, probably do a lot of zone match, zone with man underneath, things like that. That's where not having Maxwell Hairston hurt the Bills this week, is he's a really good man coverage corner, but still you got Christian Benford, you got Trey White playing at a high level. Cole Bishop is kind of an X factor player in the secondary. So yeah, I think that's how you gotta handle this Jacksonville team. I'm not worried about the run. I'm not worried about Trevor Etienne. We'll get him on the ground. If he gets some yards, that's fine. The main thing is take away that first read from Trevor Lawrence, confuse him with different various coverages, and get the ball in the situations where the Bills can turn them over. I do think the Bills will get at least one interception this game, maybe two. I just kind of have that feeling because of the way the Bills in that secondary are able to do some things coverage-wise.
Yeah, it could definitely be a big Cole Bishop game. I mean, they rested him also for a reason last week, too, just to keep him fresh. But, I mean, he's really come on throughout the course of the season as well. Everybody was very worried about him and his development after – obviously an injury plague season last year, and everybody was also worried at the beginning of the season during training camp when he also had injury that hampered him throughout training camp. So I think between him and Christian Benford having a day out there and really just keying in on is Christian Benford going to track Jacoby Myers? Is he going to go after Brian Thomas Jr.? I mean, him being able to have that shutdown capability will be key in that secondary. But then, like you said, maybe even making some key turnovers along the way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will be, there'll be various stuff they can do. I mean, if they keep Trey White one time on Jacoby Myers, you bracket him over top with a safety. Maybe you carry Benford the whole game with Jacoby Myers. I'm not real worried about Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, he can make plays, but he was a guy that was on the trading blocks if the Jaguars got what they wanted from another team at the trade deadline. So the other thing is this, they've got a big tight end in Brenton Strange. Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL at taking the tight end away. So, they're going to use Taron Johnson and some others. A big thing, a lot of emphasis has been placed upon against Shaq Thompson. And Shaq Thompson's kind of, since they've inserted him in that starting defense and how all of a sudden things have gotten more solidified in the middle. I think a big part of what the Bills' success on defense since Thanksgiving has been is Matt Milano is healthy. And healthy Matt Milano takes away a lot of stuff as well. So I think we do match up. You just can't give up explosives, man. And that's one thing that McDermott's really been good at through his time. Now, he might give up yards. He usually doesn't give up explosives, and I think you'll see the Bills really try to put that into motion this weekend.
Yeah, the bend but don't break mentality to a T right there.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And Jerry, we do want to have a little bit of time. Thank you so much again for your time today on this crazy weekend. We want to get some audience questions in a second, but I think you've sort of alluded to it. Could you give us a pick for who you like, and if they do get past this week, how far do you think the Bills can go this year?
When I look at this game, it kind of reminds me a lot of that Tennessee playoff game that we lost in Tennessee on home run throwback. This is kind of the same thing. A lot of people were talking at that game that whoever won it was going to be the Super Bowl representative of the AFC. Tennessee obviously stole it from us. That was a forward pass, or a backwards pass, forwards pass, whatever you want to call it. But when you look at it, I think that
get a lot of people
whoever
their head yes for you here, by the
way. it was illegal. I'll just put it that way. Whenever you look at this game, though, I think you can say whoever wins this game has a really good shot. I'm not sold on the Broncos. I'm definitely not sold on New England. In a dream, the Chargers win this weekend. Now, Jeremy White, our partner on Bill Squad, actually picked Los Angeles to win that game in Foxborough this weekend. He feels pretty good about it. Studied up that game pretty well. So, no, I think that whoever wins this game has a definite shot to make it all the way. When I look at this thing, the one thing that scares the hell out of me, and borderline having dreams about it, but with the new NFL kickoff rule, most drives are starting at like the 35-yard line, right? And it's not unheard of that you start, to the 40, maybe 45. They've got a kicker that can kick from 70 yards in Cam Little. You get that, you get in a situation where you're up 2, they don't need much time. They get the ball on a kickoff out to the 35 or whatever. What's Cam Little need? 6 yards, and he can kick a field goal. I mean, so that's one thing that I think that the Jaguars do have the advantage this week is their kicking game is really strong, their punter and their kicker. And obviously we're on our third punter, although Wisniewski's been doing a real good job. And then, of course, we got Prather with the leg injury. He seems to think he's fine. Thinks a lot of last week was due to the cold weather, and they kind of put him down because he felt tightness and they didn't want him to re-aggravate it. I like the Bills winning 27-24. I do. I would not be shocked if they scored over 30. That would be because Jacksonville turned it over. Bills got more possessions, and I think people that really dig into the advanced analytic world understand now that field position and time of possession aren't what's important anymore in football. It's possessions, how many times your offense has the ball. So if the Bills can maybe convert some fourth downs, get a couple turnovers, they got a chance to score with 30. But I think it's going to be probably a little tighter than that. I probably look at Buffalo 27, Jacksonville 24.
Awesome. So, hey, you got a lot of people liking that prediction here because obviously we'd love to be able to have continued analysis on them and see who they could play in the divisional round here. But Jerry, I was able to talk to you about this a little bit today. You're okay for a few audience questions.
Yeah, no problem, man. You guys go ahead. We're doing good.
All right. So who wants to be our first question up here? Just to talk to former NFLer Jerry Ostroski. So got a Vikings fan coming in, by the way.
Okay.
So sorry. Well, hey, as a Vikings fan again, I'm sure you all know that the Vikings and the Bills are the only two franchises to ever been to 4 Super Bowls and lost all 4. But hopefully this is the year that we are the only member of that club, since now that my team is no longer in that playoffs, you guys are definitely my favorite team remaining. So if I can hop on this big old bandwagon of yours, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jerry, always great listening to a former player talk and share, especially with someone like Chris, who I know and work with. I also was a guest on this pod not too long ago, although the difference between our NFL experience is probably about 11 years since I think you played 11. That said, I did a quick bit of homework, and I saw that your first year with Buffalo was, I believe, Thurman Thomas's last year as a Pro Bowler with the Bills. So I'm just curious, what's it like coming and seeing someone like Thurman Thomas, getting to block for him and hang out with him in the locker room? I guess two-part question: what made him special, unlike other running backs that you worked with, and also maybe who in today's game reminds you the most of Thurman Thomas?
Well, I don't know if there's anybody that reminds me of Thurman. Thurman was one of a kind for sure. And the thing about Thurman that made him so great was not only just his natural God-given ability, was the fact that he was an ultra competitor. I mean, he was a alpha when it came to competing on the field. I mean, nobody competed as hard as he did. He was a guy that demanded a lot of everybody around him. He demanded a lot of himself. He finished plays. He was a tough guy. I think the biggest thing about Thurman is if you watched him play, the most impressive thing that he does or did when he played was his ability to pass protect. Blitzing linebackers wanted no part of him. I mean, he was going to mess them up, and that's just part of the toughness and part of the competitive edge that he always had. So, yeah, I mean, I was blessed to play with not only him, but I mean, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, coached by Marv Levy, an owner. I mean, all these guys are in the Hall of Fame. I mean, this is an amazing group that you got to be around. Jim Kelly, Yeah, it was definitely a blessing. But I think that's the biggest thing with Thurman is what made him so great was besides his ability, just his just edge he had. He was just an uber competitive dude and just would not take defeat as an answer. And he was always playing hard no matter what point in the game it was, whether it was winning, losing, whatever. If he's on the field, he's going to give you 100%.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry. Go Bills.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. All right. What's come up next? We have a hodgepodge of friends down here, Jerry. Well, I tended to have the Bills Mafia love just travel in between everybody here. So it's infectious. So naturally they all end up just rooting for the Bills anyway here, despite us having a lot of out-of-town teams here in Richmond.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of Commanders fans. Excuse me. I almost said Redskins.
Speaking of Commanders, hold that thought. Shame.
I'm so sorry, Jerry.
Hit the on switch on the bottom. There we go. All right. Speaking of Commanders fans, you want to go ahead and unplug our speaker on the last second. Shame.
There have been a few beers consumed. Jerry, thank you so much for being here. This is awesome. I am probably the Commanders fan here. And so I'm not going to let that inform my question too much, although I will break news. David Blau hired as the Commanders OC while we were on the air here. But I have kind of two questions. One about the playoff picture outside of Buffalo.
Okay.
Is there a team that you are particularly intrigued or excited by other than Buffalo in terms of seeing what sort of noise they can make during this playoff run?
Yeah, I think again it goes to the Rams. I really like the Los Angeles Rams. I like Sean McVay. I like what they do offensively. I think their defense is way underrated. Verse and the likes. They get after people up front. Really, really fast football team, aggressive, young. So I would say probably the Rams and other than the Bills. I mean, of course we all have our love of the Bills, but if you had to make me say, okay, who was that one team you thought had a really solid chance, it would be the LA Rams. Now I like Seattle too. Let me rephrase. I like Seattle as well, but I think Seattle's defense is better even than the Rams, and the Rams has got a good defense. But the whole Sam Darnold thing probably makes me a little bit more nervous than some people want to admit.
Fair enough. I guess that kind of leads into the next question, because I think the coaching in Seattle the coaching in the entire NFC West outside of Arizona is so highly regarded with Shanahan, McDonald, and McVay. Looking at with Josh McDaniel in Miami, let go.
Mike McDaniel.
Josh McDaniel, of course, is
a lot of McDaniels
New England,
out there.
right? He's McDaniels versus McDaniel.
Right.
Point is, the coaching situation has gotten pretty wildly shifted with Harbaugh being let go in Baltimore. I think there's speculation right now about some of the wild card teams potentially, like Tomlin is rumored to be on the hot seat if they do not win on Monday night versus Houston. Any thoughts on who is the exciting coaching candidate or potentially coordinator candidates who we're going to be seeing making moves next week? I don't think Buffalo is really in play for any of that, but if there's somebody out there that you're particularly high on, I'd love to hear about it.
I think the biggest race for a head coach is going to be who lands John Harbaugh. Honestly, I think Mike McDaniel keeps his job if John Harbaugh doesn't become available. Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is a huge Michigan man. He's the number one athletic donor at the university. I think he's given something like $400 and some million to the Michigan athletic program. So the opportunity for him to get a guy like Harbaugh, I think that's why he made the move. Whether Harbaugh goes to Miami or not, I don't know. I think if you look at some other wild card teams, I think the biggest team that, and I don't think Sean McDermott's going anywhere. And I think Sean McDermott is just like Mike Tomlin. They'll choose when they don't want to coach. I really believe that. I think that Pagula really, really likes and respects Sean McDermott. And honestly, if you're looking at the Buffalo Bills, maybe kind of like the Sabres, you might want to look at the front office before you look at the bench. But when I look at teams in the wild card that could potentially blow up, I think the number one team right now that I would put on that watch list would be the Green Bay Packers and LaFleur. I don't think that if they go into Chicago this week and lose, that's another first-round playoff loss by a team that's kind of been patient, waiting on this guy to get things going. The thing about LaFleur is he tends to coach scared, doesn't make those tough decisions when he needs to, hasn't really evolved in that spot. Sean McDermott got a lot of grief for that early in his career, but it's definitely changed the viewpoints on that by fans and pundits across the nation. So I would say if you want to look at somebody, watch that Bears game. If the Bears beat the Packers again, that might be where the next move is made.
You got a Bears fan doing a pretty solid fist pump there. So
Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you. Go Birds.
Else? Yeah, there we go. But you also had a couple people just chuckling there because we have some hockey fans in here too with that Sabres comment you made. So we're in Capitals country.
You got to listen. Yeah, so. You got to listen carefully because I'll throw some things out, but I don't usually. I kind of put them under things.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So next one we have is from from my beautiful wife Emily. So everybody say
all
hello.
Right. Hello, Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm Mrs. Stepbrother Sports. My question to you is, there have been a lot of games this season where it sort of seemed like the defense was asleep at the wheel for the first half, and then they came live the second half, and that was enough to bring us to the end of the game. But do you think that Jacksonville is a team that we can do that with? That if the defense decides that they're going to hang back for the first half and wake up the second half, are we going to be able to dig ourselves out of a hole to pull off a victory?
That's a great question. That's a wonderful question. And, I said this the other day, there's no way in holy hell the Bills can spot them 17, 21 points and think they're going to come out in the second half and just go ahead and do what they normally do and pull one out and, and win the game. I will say this about the defense. McDermott has done, and Babich, you got to put both of them together. They've done a wonderful job of taking a roster. It's just like the last game against the Jets when we're going ahead and closing out Highmark. When you looked at the names across the defensive front and on that defense, you'd almost think that they sat all the starters and the backups were playing, when really in reality, those are the starters on this defense, right? So obviously, as far as injury goes, that side of the ball got really, really hit hard. But if you look at this Bills defense since Thanksgiving, they've done a complete 180 as far as that goes. They've gone up to, I think, third in overall defense. Now, honestly, they dug such a hole in as far as rush defense, they just can't seem to get out of being towards the bottom. But passing defense, I think, is number one in the league. So they've done a really good job of solidifying that side of the ball and being more consistent. So I don't think we'll see that early season kind of trend of be asleep at the wheel, then show up in the second half. I think this is a group that's played well across the board for 4 quarters for the last month, and you'll continue to see that this weekend.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, the New England comeback was definitely one to remember also. So I got a couple comments we'll see coming in here. We have another friend in the friend group who's a big Patriots fan too. So unfortunately the Bills couldn't close it out this year and win the AFC East once more. But it was just like, hold on, wait and see, because New England was ready to get their hat and T-shirt game earlier then. So,
right.
But one right here, Steve Noble says, Taron Johnson needs to have his best game of the year. Jag slot, Parker Washington, no joke. And I have to agree with that there. Another one right here, comedian Mo Brown. He thinks Keon plays. I mean, based on that DNP status all week for Joshua Palmer, I mean, he might have a chance to play. I feel like he might have to be sprung into action. What are your thoughts on both of those, Jerry?
As far as Taron Johnson, yes, I do agree. I mean, he's a very vital part of that defense. Unfortunately for Taron, he's suffering through something that we all do eventually as players, and that's we get old. And Taron's got a lot of miles on him. And he kind of plays through some injuries week in and week out. But, yeah, he has to have a good game. And honestly, can Jordan Hancock come in and spell if he needs to, or Cam Lewis? Again, like I said, having a healthy Matt Milano back has really helped some of that stuff as well. But yeah, Parker Washington's a good one, along with Thomas and Myers. They've, and I think Myers is the one though that's significantly boosted that Jaguars passing attack. But as far as Keon goes, if Palmer's healthy, Keon's a healthy scratch. It's that simple. If Keon plays, if he gets a jersey on Sunday, it's because Palmer's not going to play. I don't think there's any other way to look at it. Keon's on the bench if Palmer's healthy, but since that's up in the air, and I think Palmer again didn't practice today, or maybe he did, or it's going to be a game time decision. I don't know if the Bills will roll the dice and take a chance and just go ahead and start Keon. But yeah, I think Palmer's health has everything to do with whether Keon plays or not.
Yeah. So we have one more question here. One of the audience members texted this in, just talking about the last game at Highmark Stadium this past week, Jerry. Obviously, you got to play 9 years in the NFL. Every year you got to spend in the current version of Highmark Stadium, the Ralph. You knew it as Rich Stadium and everything before then. I mean, just the way they were able to just wrap a bow on the season with that really just amazing way to finish. Granted, it was a lot of backups playing, but like the vibes were very strong throughout the entire game there. I mean, it was kind of neat that they were playing the very first opponent they had in the regular season in the New York Jets, and also in the last game against the New York Jets. I mean, what does it mean for you knowing the fact that that is the final game in that iteration of the stadium, even though knowing like they're not going far, they're just going across the street? Like, what are just some things that really just stand out to you for not only that game, but just from your time there in general, as we kind of wrap things up for you here?
Well, I mean, obviously, that's where my career, kicked off. I mean, I got drafted by Kansas City, was in Atlanta for a minute. Then I came to Buffalo and was there for 10 years. So, that's home. That's where I grew up. That's where that's where I got to play and all that stuff. So that place will always mean a lot to me. A lot of tons and tons of big games in that stadium. I think it was nice that we got to play the Jets this past week, because it was nice to sit down in the chair and have no stress and just be able to really take in the events and understand, and enjoy, enjoy the game, right? Enjoy the stadium and the festivities
audible laughs
without stress and worrying about, but without stress about worrying about it, you're going to win or lose. And we got to make the playoffs if we, all those things that go with it. But I think the two biggest things to me were probably little things that a lot of people didn't really pay much attention to. One is obviously they did, and that's the red helmets and the red socks. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but there was no better way to. Yeah, there was no better way to close that place out than wear the best uniform combination that team has. Now, very close. If that's 1A, 1B is the Stormtrooper look where they go white on white on white on white. But, that's an iconic uniform. And there's tons and tons of history and tons of success to go along with that red helmet. And that red helmet means something. So that was the first thing that, kind of made me a bit emotional was just seeing those guys out there with those royal blue jerseys. Just they pop so much better when you put that really nice red helmet with it. A red helmet that's behind me on my shelf. But the other thing was this, and I thought it was very, very touching, and props to Jeff, the equipment manager, for doing this, because it was something he put together. If there was a recent article from Dan Pompei that kind of did a dive into the Bills and really Sean McDermott. And I think everybody that's a Bills fan understands just the admiration and affection that Sean McDermott has for Marv Levy. And I've said it for quite some time now. They're very similar people. They coach very similarly. They act very similar. They're very well and meshed and in tune with one another, those two. And it's cool that they've got a very good relationship and they talk. But when McDermott wore the script Bills hat, I don't know many people when they saw that if they understood what that meant. The second I saw that script red and white Bills on that royal blue hat, I knew exactly what it was. And it was an ode to Marv, because that's the hat that Marv wore. And I thought, besides the red helmets, I thought that was absolutely awesome. And I know it just seems like a little thing, but to a team that, to a franchise that Marv meant so much to and still means so much to, for Sean to do that and for Jeff to set that up, I thought that was awesome.
Absolutely. Again, it was just goes to show you just how much the community matters to Sean McDermott, how meaningful and embedded he is in there. But as we're wrapping things up, Jerry, I want to say thank you so much for your time this evening. Obviously, again, we had some prime real estate and then same time as a bowl game tonight too.
No,
So,
man,
let's
you
give another
guys,
round of applause
you
for
guys
Jerry
are great,
Ostroski.
man. You guys are great.
Yeah. So really, Jerry, we thank you so much for your time tonight. Obviously, everybody here is going to give a pretty hearty Go Bills on there. But for folks that don't know his platforms, obviously, check him out on the Bills Squad shows that air a couple times a week. They do post game coverage. So that's Joe Marino and Jeremy White, and on his own platform on the Overreaction Podcast Network with Joe Miller and his former teammate John Fina. So Jerry, we thank you so much for your time. Really, thank you.
Jared.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Much love, folks. Go Bills.
Take care. Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
All right. Thanks again, Jerry. So anyway, folks, for us, Shawnee V, take it away.
Yes. So next up, look for us to return no matter what happens this week with the Bills' fate. We have our next guest, Michelle Girardi-Zumalt, January 21st. She is the current supervising producer for the Buffalo Sabres. Hell of a team, a wagon right now. This is true. There is a gap. But so Michelle is the architect for many awesome things, both Bills and Sabres related content. Fans may be familiar with her outstanding The Four Falls of Buffalo, the 30 for 30, as well as the embedded series for both teams and so much more. So, and until next time, let's go Buffalo.
Yes. And to our over 400 viewers online and all of our platforms, thank you guys for tuning in. Go Bills. Let's take home this dub, folks. And thank you one more time to Richbrau.